Catus, Maximus here, this time with the GreenLee 9-inch Lineman's Pliers review. Found a set of these, a little bit of surface ruts, but these are basically brand new. I didn't pay much money for them. I think I paid $5. I was pretty stoked about that. Overall, they seem pretty well made. I think they're Taiwanese made. And surprisingly enough, this particular unit, the SD, is discontinued. They have other ones, the 15109M and that type of stuff. But I thought the SD was a pretty good, it had some decent features. One, and I mentioned this on the Kleins, I've seen pliers like this before, and earlier I assumed that, if you cut a live 120 volt wire, it tends to melt a little hole just like this in the cutters. This is intentional. This is actually a wire stripper. And then this odd little hole here. So this is a commercial electrician set of pliers, and it's just designed to have some improvements, I guess, over the traditional Kleins. I'd still recommend the Kleins because they're American made, and I think they're just a little bit heavier duty. But these older GreenLees really aren't too bad. They have a lot of grinding, but I think they look okay. Once again, they did have the built-in stripper, and then they had this little hole here. And what this was designed to do is just help speed up wiring. What you'd end up doing is you'd take, and it's designed, this is designed for like down the 14 gauge, which would be the standard wire thickness. This little hole, and before I made a mistake, this hole is actually 85,000. So this is compatible down to 12 gauge wire. So 14 and 12 gauge, 16, 14, and 12 gauge is really the standard for both residential and commercial. And so the deal is these supposed to be able to strip with these, with the stripper, and then you just take the wire, and this hole is pre-measured. So you just put the end of the solid core wire, is what it's tuned for, put in the solid core wire, and what that does is that gives you an optimized pre-bend. I didn't get that quiet enough, but if you do a little better, it gives you an optimized pre-bend. So you just roll the wire over like so, and that gives you an optimized pre-bend so that you can just quickly get it around the terminal and tighten it down. And so it's made to speed up the process by providing an optimized bend for stripping the solid core wire, just simply jamming it into this little hole, which has a pre-measured depth, wrapping it around, and then getting it onto your terminal and tightening the terminal down. And I thought that in and of itself was actually a pretty darn good idea. Such a good idea that I think other people might be wise to actually drill a hole in their other Lineman's pliers if they're doing commercial work, doing it for a living, installing wires and receptacles, having something like that. Now, it's not such a big deal to be able to grab just the right amount of wire and wrap it around the tip of the pliers, but having a little hole on the side where it's pre-measured so it's just optimized every time can be faster when you get used to it. Other than that, the rivet's nice and tight, which is actually something that you want because it'll loosen up as you use them. Double dipped handles. The other nice feature is they are proper. If we look, lesser linesman style pliers, it'll just be a big metal buckle and the rivet will be down a little bit lower. But on more professional grades like the Kleins, these GreenLees, like these old 8-inch diamonds, we can see that the rivet is actually, which is the center point, the fulcrum, is closer to the back of the jaws. So what that means is that you get more leverage against the back of the jaws. It means less force in cutting the wire and makes it easier to use. And that's actually a small, mostly unnoticed by a lot of people, design characteristic, but it is a specific one to more professional pliers because it just makes it easier and less hand fatigue when you're cutting, particularly Romex, which has 3 wires. So you're having to put a bit more force on it because you're cutting 3 wires at once. And so kind of appreciate that. So GreenLee, as far as people who don't know, GreenLee is to electricians' tools kind of like how Rigid is to plumbing tools. They're a tool company that makes a variety of tools that can be used in a variety of industries, but they are primarily known for catering to electricians. Now, the only thing that I can say about these GreenLees, interestingly enough, is that there isn't too big of a gap in the jaws, where if we take a look at, say, the diamonds, there's a little bit more of a gap in the diamonds, and it's for twisting wire. There's supposed to be a gap there. And if we look at the clients actually have a real healthy gap. So that's one thing. All Lineman's pliers do have a little bit of a gap in the jaws. And then as far as the teeth are concerned, the teeth seems pretty good, but it's like a scratch surface. They're not super aggressive. Where if we take a look at some of the, like these clients, I guess the clients are similar, but just a little bit deeper, a little bit more aggressive. And of course, on these old diamonds, about the same way, but still a little bit more aggressive. I guess that's the most disappointing part, is that the cross-hatching on these GreenLees, just at least on this particular pair, wasn't done very well. Otherwise, I think that these SD ones are a pretty decent set of pliers, and really like the idea of just an integrated standard stripper and a pre-measured hole for terminal, or for bending wires for terminals. Anyway, really appreciate everybody who's been watching and supporting the channel. See you next time.